get underneath a couple of logs and be useful then.
Exactly. Wait, hold on. Is this one looking for themes? Is this down the line? Great. Yeah.
There's 4 different things.
Okay, this is going down the line. That's going to you. Oh wait, actually we've got one more.
All right.
Going to you.
Take one and pass it down, miss.
So there's this. Are you going to acknowledge this?
Good, how are you?
Yeah. The Days of Women? This.
Was this different than this?
Yes. No, those two are the same.
Take care.
Any clue?
Nope. I have none. Okay.
Okay, then there's this. Same one as last night. Yeah. I think it was last night. This said
Take one and pass it down.
All right. Then, all right. Are those the 4 things? No.
I have 4, so
I've got
4 done.
Oh, hold on. No.
I've got 3.
Yeah, I played around this back down on the table. It's the same one I just gave you.
Okay.
Children,
There's an extra one of this.
I think so. And then
Is
this
it going the other way? Is that
before?
You've got that already, probably.
This goes this way.
She just stalled the
stalled up.
system, right? You know.
Okay. What happened?
You get that one?
No, did not. Thank you.
You have no clue who this is from?
It's always good when they're going 2 different
More
directions.
important one. Like, when do we get out of here?
No, off you go.
Just the Art Academy.
No.
This is the one that's making me think of it.
All right.
Agenda? This is your budget for this.
No.
Okay.
And if you want to take...
Go for it.
Oh, no.
Back.
We got time.
Oh, me too.
We got 2 minutes.
No, I have not. Thank you. I had my 2 minutes because I knew it.
Right, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
This one's not going to be red.
Minutes.
Coming the other way, huh?
Yeah, well, mix it up. See if we can handle it.
Well, you stalled.
DJ is coming tonight. I didn't hear from him.
You emailed, I didn't hear from him.
Did you, for the 1st of March?
Yeah, that just came around.
Yeah.
That's going this way.
That was your copy.
That was your copy. I have one on
Andy, this is BJ.
Oh, okay, good. All right, we're just wondering if you're going to be here. Welcome.
I'm not online for some reason. I
Okay.
don't know why I'm not online.
Okay.
What the heck?
Welcome, BJ. Just passed about 6 pieces of paper around. Sorry.
All right, so this is last week. This is tonight's agenda. Tonight.
Looks like the old Russell there, huh? This is temporary.
Yes, you got that right. Shouldn't be that bad.
This is.
Yes.
You waited.
That should have been mine.
Yeah.
I would have read it all night.
Realize you. I mean, our doc. No, we owned it.
Okay, we're missing
With that, you feel
Michelle.
better. No, having
She's not online, so she had to go. There we go.
give it up. She's second choice. Yeah, I'm not online. I don't like on the computer. You okay?
When kids go back up, think about it.
Well, I'm
You wrap.
You can knock them down, have to pick up the next deal.
Joe, just let me know when you're ready.
Oops.
Oh, no, I'll get him.
Got him?
Yeah, I got him.
Sure.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Finance to order. Mr. Kelsey asked me to chair the meeting tonight on the phone with DJ. And Mr. Kelsey also requested that Maria sit in for him as a voting member tonight. Okay, any objections? Okay, great. Region 18. Come on down. I know you got a basketball game and a few other things to go through tonight.
Choral concert. So if you want to just take one and pass it around, that'd be great.
There's already standing room on the concert.
Oh, great. I think I might have an in. Might have an in. I got to do both.
Backstage.
Yeah, exactly. So I've included in the packet here just a couple of slides. Let me just start by saying, so you can breathe a little bit deeper, that we are again for the second time in 3 years presenting a negative budget. So we are proposing a decrease of 0.13%, which amounts to $44,084 less than we spent last year, which is great. And let me just go through a little bit of the reason why we're able to do that. And I can tell you the number one reason is a significant decrease in the cost of employee benefits. About 4 or 5 years ago, we joined the Eastern Connecticut Health and Medical Collaborative, which is a consortium of school districts and towns, including us, the Old Saybrook schools, the North Stonington School District, Learn, and I feel like I'm missing one other group. So what it does, it gives us buying power. It also allows us to be in a position where if we have a catastrophic claim, it doesn't have as much of an impact on the larger group. And much like many other programs during COVID, most people didn't go to the doctor, so we were able to build up a pretty big reserve. And because of that and the low claims experience that the group has had, we are looking at about a 20% decrease in our health insurance costs. So I'd shared this with Tim and Andy, and we're actually, I know the two towns are considering joining as well. I know our broker is looking at that, so I don't have any information for you about that tonight, but I did want you to know that that is the reason, really the main reason why our budget is going down so significantly. There are some other decreases, but that's really the big driver. So let me just turn to the second page here. On the back of this document, I have our debt service. I know one of the questions that people might be wondering is, well, is something going to change with debt service if we move forward with a school construction project? And the answer is yes, but I don't know what that looks like because I don't know what a school construction project, how much that might cost. And then once you determine the cost, you also have to look at a debt service schedule and determine what you're going to borrow when, how much money you need. So there's a lot of factors that really have not been established yet to determine where we are in terms of debt service. But as you can see, year over year, we continue to see a decrease because we are on the tail end of most of those debt service payments, those for the high school project, and surprisingly still some from well, actually, I shouldn't say that. We'll have paid off all of our debt from the previous four-school project when we did it over 20 years ago. So the next slide just shows our breakdown of expenditures, and this is pretty much hasn't changed, I'm sure, since school systems began, but the majority of our costs are for our employees. We don't make a product. Our product is successful students. And our monies go to paying those people who teach them and take care of them. So the majority, as you can see, is for certified and non-certified salaries and employee benefits. The next slide just shows what is really driving the budget. As I mentioned, we do have some increases in both our certified salary line and our non-certified salary line, and I'll talk about a little bit about those in just a second. We do have a slight increase in maintenance budget as well, but pretty much everything else is decreasing, but the most significant decrease being that decrease in benefits, which is just shy of $600,000. And I think the next slide is what I like to brag about the most. If you look from a historical perspective, in 2019-20, we had a budget of $35,084,758. This year, we are proposing a budget of $34,830,464. That is $254,294 less than it was in 2019-20. So if you look at our decrease over 4 years, we're running a budget that is lower than it was 4 years ago, 0.7% lower than it was 4 years ago. And the nice part about that, most people might assume, well, you must have cut programs, you must have cut teachers, your numbers must be going down. None of that is accurate. We're actually adding teachers to this budget. Our numbers have gone up. I just reported to the board at this month's meeting that we got another 7 students. So our student population continues to climb. We've just been a lot of things have really worked in our favor between debt service, benefits, obviously some of the expenditures during COVID with some of the money that we got through the federal government. So a lot of things have worked in our favor over the last few years, but we're pleased to provide a budget that is almost $250,000 less than it was 4 years ago, or actually a little bit more than $250,000. So let me talk a little bit about what we are adding. As I said, we are adding some additional teaching staff this year. Now, some of this was already in place at the beginning of this year, and that's in part because over the summer last year we saw an increase in students where we needed to increase our staff. So, for example, you see on here that we have a 5th grade teacher at Mile Creek. Well, that's because we had such an increase in the 5th grade that we had to add a teacher before school began this year. But when you look budget to budget, that person wasn't in the budget. So that's an additional person this year, but they've been employed the entire year. Same thing with the Lime Old Lyme High School English position. Now that's only a part-time position, but again, because of such a significant increase in the student population at the high school and English being a required course, we did need to increase that position. That was an existing part-time position that we increased. And then the one new position, I'll go back to the top, is at the middle school. You might remember a number of years ago, I think it was about 8 years ago, we added SRBI specialists to the elementary schools. And with the success we've had with those and some concerns we have with some of our math scores at the middle school, we're adding a SRBI position to the middle school.
Could you tell us? Yeah.
Sure. That's called SRBI stands for Scientific Research-Based Interventions. So essentially, what that means is that is a teacher who will work with students who are not yet identified, or I shouldn't say not yet, but are not identified as special education, but may be struggling in a certain area. So we do what are called universal screeners. So basically you test all the students to see where their skill set is. And then we look at those students who might be struggling, and we have certain teachers work with those students to bring them up to where everybody else is. Sometimes those students are able to make it and they come out of the SRBI program. Sometimes through that process we realize, well, this student has some issue why they can't be successful, and then they may end up in special education. And sometimes they stay in that SRBI program for a little bit longer to help get their skills up and be able to perform with the rest of the class. So we've had a tremendous amount of success with it at the elementary school, and like I said, we have some concerns about specifically in math at the middle school of where our math scores are, so we want to make sure that all of our students have that same success. We were able to make some reductions in both our maintenance and custodial staff, and these are, just so you know, because people have asked me, well, how can you get rid of maintenance and custodial people, when COVID's going on and everything has to be cleaned? Well, these were actually positions that either weren't filled or people left and we realized we didn't need them. So we are reducing one maintenance position, and there was a custodial position where someone had been out on a long-term leave and they are not coming back. So clearly we were able to survive without that position, so we are going to continue without that position. And then the final additional cost is our teacher laptop replacement. So about every 5 years we get new laptops, recycle them, and so next year we will be getting new laptops for the teachers. That's a lease program, so as soon as the 5 years are up, we return the old ones and we get some credit back, and then we lease them so we're not paying for all of them up front as we go forward.
So that's a cost you've been paying for 5 years?
Exactly.
So
it's a little bit higher, right. It's a little bit higher only because they're newer machines, but yes, that's exactly right. And then in terms of facilities proposed projects for this year, we are going to resurface the high school track. You might recall that was installed in 2009 and it has not been resurfaced since. So if any of you are out running on it, it is supposed to be orange or reddish, I guess, and it's been worn down to the black, which means that it doesn't have that spongy surface that's required, and that's something that's really should be done about every 5 to 7 years. So we are late on doing that, so we do need to do that. Excuse me. We do need to upgrade the high school theater lighting. While, again, you might say, well, didn't we just build that school? That was actually quite a while ago. It was done in 2000. The high school theater was actually done in 2011. It was completed. So it's been about 10 years, and the technology in terms of LED lights has changed significantly in that time. We did put in a middle school. We put in outdoor classrooms at all of our buildings except for Lyme, which we're doing this year, but this current year. But one of the things we noticed when putting in the middle school outdoor classroom is that we need a hard surface under there. It tends to get really muddy in that courtyard. So we're going to be putting a concrete floor underneath that outdoor classroom in the middle school for a cost of $50,000. We are going to resurface the high school commons floor, so that is a concrete floor. But again, just in terms of regular maintenance, that does need to be resurfaced because with 500-600 people walking on it every day, it does tend to get worn down. And then we are proposing a study to install bleachers both at the new turf fields. So there will be right now those parents who had the opportunity to come and watch games down there. They really ended up having to sit in their chairs on the road. So we're looking at installing bleachers there and also bleachers at the field in between the two schools, where right now we have temporary bleachers which don't meet ADA standards and are pretty dangerous. If you have somebody sitting on the top level, they could tend to go right over. Yes, Judy?
Is this bleacher study going to include lighting for those fields?
It does not, no.
And that $25,000 is just to study and come up with a plan.
I got that.
The anticipated
Thank
cost
you.
might be in the range of $100,000
Probably, yeah.
to actually install bleachers.
Right. And in part because what we're trying to do at the turf fields, in both, if you've seen the bleachers we have at the track field, they're on a concrete pad. They have access, handicap access. They're not too high, but they're long so we can fit a lot of people. So we'd like to have something similar to allow people to watch our games on those other two fields. And then finally, the renovation of the Mile Creek gym floor. All of our gym floors have been renovated except for Mile Creek. And if you've had a chance to go into either the high school or the middle school, or Lyme School for that matter, they look incredibly different. So we intend to do the same thing, sand that floor all the way down, refinish it in the same design as we've done at the middle school and the high school. Not like we did at Lyme. That's not a wood floor. That's a rubber floor. And
Questions for Ian?
pretty much it.
I mean, I have one question.
Yes.
I mean, related to the reduction in employee benefits, does the consortium have a plan in place as people play catch up with all of their health care needs?
So we do have, there's a couple of things that will prevent us from going bankrupt in that regard. One is we have a healthy reserve, but two, there are caps. So when you hit a certain cap, reinsurance kicks in. So it will not cost us anything. It's much like, in your case, if you're the deductible on your plan, you don't have to pay the cost. So it's the same idea.
I have a question along those lines. What's the average age of the staff that's being insured? What's the high in the age group?
I will take an educated guess on that one. I don't know off the top of my head.
Do you have any
We have
people over 70 or 80?
We don't have anybody over 80, and by contract, our employees are not eligible for our insurance if they're eligible for Medicare, if they're over 65.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if we came on board for something like that, we'd have to compare apples to apples.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
And that's a contractual issue for us in terms of and average age. Can get me in a lot of trouble here.
I won't hold you to it.
I'm going to say average is probably mid-50s, I'd say.
Thank you.
Mid-50s, maybe late 50s. I mean, we do have a very veteran staff.
No, I'm thinking that's not veteran compared to, say, general government things.
Right.
Thank you.
Ian, what was the student split in October between Lyme and Old Lyme?
I'd have to look that one up. Do you remember what it was?
No.
It was about the usual. I can certainly look that up and send it to you.
0.2 or 0.3%
Yeah, right.
shift makes
Yep.
a huge difference
Oh, yeah.
to our town's
Yep,
budgets.
absolutely.
And I know April 1st is the date, but we've got to have our budget.
It has stayed pretty consistently, even though, and this is the one thing you guys probably don't want to hear, you have a larger housing stock than Lyme does, so with the influx of new people, you tend to be the one that gets more people. The only benefit to that is you also have larger numbers, so the influx of more people doesn't impact the percentage as much for you, where Lyme could get one new student and that could really impact them. So it's kind of a bit of a balancing act there, but it was about 80-20. I don't know the exact off the top of my head.
Ron has 50% open space, we have 20.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they're doing that on purpose, Tim.
We just got to get that family of 5 to move.
Right, exactly. I think Steve's trying to do the same thing.
You and Catherine, there we are.
goes to Lyme.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We do, again, 50% of our student population at school is from Old Lyme, based on our attendance zones.
That's all right. We pay for 80% of Lyme schools.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter. Other questions?
This is B.J. Burnblum, and just out of curiosity, how many students from out of Region 18 are in the system this year?
That's a good question. We have 10 right now, and we are starting an 11th this month. So 11 tuition-paying students. I'd say at least a third, if not a quarter of those are staff members' students.
Mm-hmm.
So do they get a reduction?
And do staff member students get a discount on tuition?
They do. They pay 50% of the cost.
What's the cost for the out-of-town?
So at the high school, it's $19,000 a year. Middle school, it's $17,000 a year. Elementary school, it's $15,000 a year. And pre-K, it's $10,000 a year. If you are a student, because one of the things we've been talking about for a while, but between COVID and other world crises, is bringing in international students on F1 visas who would be required. It's not an exchange program. It's different than an exchange program. We do have exchange students, but those students will be required to pay tuition. That's actually federal law. That's not our policy. And they have to pay 150% of the tuition. So it's just the opposite of staff members. And the reason we did that is we feel like there's going to be more involvement with those students, especially if they're not fluent in the language. And when we were first looking at it, we were really focused on Chinese students. And while we have a Chinese teacher who's a native speaker, even he recognizes that it will be a struggle to try to manage some of those. But
it would also be enriching for the kids.
Absolutely.
To meet folks from abroad.
Absolutely, and that's our goal. And we're now looking. We work with a program that's trying to connect us with students from all over, from Australia, from Spain, still from China, even some countries in South America. So we're hoping to be able to get some of those students. And we have had about one exchange student per year for the last 3 years. Those students do not pay tuition. They come here as part of a AFS or a Rotary or something like that.
Quick question. How do you calculate the tuition cost? Because it seems like those are really clean numbers, and I'm just curious what the sort of accounting behind them is.
So for years, and I think when Judy was on the board, we used to argue over this every year about what should we include in that cost. Because the state does give us a per pupil expenditure based on our budget that we submit to the state. Things like debt service don't count towards that. So what was happening is it was going up and down every year depending on our budget, depending on the number of students. And the board at the time felt strongly that really wasn't fair to someone who was going to commit to coming to 4 years to say, hey, by the way, the cost this year is $15,000, but next year it's going to be $20,000, and then the year after that it's going to go to $17,000. if we're going to try to compete with another private school or a school system, we need to be pretty consistent in our numbers. So roughly our per pupil cost is about $20,000. Now, at the time, it was about $19,000, and we felt that just keeping it consistent would be that. So we're not calculating it per se anymore. We used to, but we just felt let's set a tuition and stick with that. We do evaluate that every April, so the board will be evaluating that at their next meeting, and we may raise it depending on what our per pupil cost is. But it's worked for us pretty well, and frankly, adding another student does not cost us $19,000. If we have to add another teacher, that's a different story. But having 10 students spread out across the district is not costing us the amount of money that we're getting in, not even close.
I have a quick question. How competitive are we with, say, Xavier, Mercy, Williams?
Yep. So we don't have a single student who goes to Xavier from the two towns last time I checked. I'm pretty sure that's the same for Mercy, but I can't say for 100% certainty.
I'm talking tuition.
To what it costs to go to Xavier?
What it costs. Are we competitive?
I'm about to get on my soapbox about how wonderful we
are.
I know that. Yeah. Xavier and Mercy are actually a little bit less. Williams is significantly more. I think Williams is in the 30 range, 30 to 35. Xavier and I think is about 12 to 15, and I believe Mercy is about the same. It varies. I mean, depending on what you're paying. You go to Choate, you're paying $60,000. Well, we actually get kids.
You have day students there, but still.
Yeah, we get kids coming back from Choate and Andover and Exeter and everywhere else.
Thank you.
Other questions? Great.
All right, off to basketball and
good luck.
Choral concerts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not, if the people on the phone, BJ, no problem hearing you, but there was some other chatter going on the phone. If you can mute your phone, otherwise I will be forced to mute everybody. Okay, appreciate it. There was some talk about a cheeseburger. Okay, other associations, nonprofits, E.B. Griffin, come on down. Under 211.
Are there enough seats for you guys?
So, about the whole, definitely want sitting near the mic there.
Yeah.
There's a mic here as well.
Take your phone. Is this something
Just in case, could you all introduce yourselves just for the record?
So I'm Katie Huffman. I'm the director of the library.
My name is Tom Britt, and I'm the treasurer.
And I'm Kirsten Sicaranta. I'm the board president.
Welcome, thank you.
So nice to be back.
Back in person. That's right. Go right ahead.
Jump right in. Maria and I met with actually,
I wasn't able to make it, but I was supposed to be there. It's good to see you all. Sorry I was not able to make it.
You brought budgets for everyone, and
Sure.
you worked right off the bat.
Everybody got one?
Yep.
All right. So I'll start at the top and work my way down. Along the way, obviously, asking questions and do my best to answer them. All right. So starting at the top, we begin with our fundraising efforts. We've been very fortunate the last few years to have excellent support from the community. And we anticipate increasing our fundraising goals for FY23 by 8%. We've also, for several years, had a fundraising event on the calendar that we've subsequently canceled. Thankfully, we've been able to make up the difference of that $20,000 forecasted income in just direct donations through the annual fund drive. Again, excellent support from the community. We hope, however, to bring that $20,000 event back for FY23. Time will tell. The endowment, Thanks to the efforts of the renewal campaign, we have increased the endowments through the fundraising. We added money to the building fund as requested by this board and capital improvements. We've also added to just our general operating income that we pulled from that. At the same time, under Tom's guidance and our finance committee, we've been working to reduce our spend rule down to a more sustainable 4.5%. We anticipate reaching that target by 2028. In the meantime, service income, we resumed passport services. We've reopened our doors, so we're receiving more funding through those passports, fines, we don't charge fines anymore, but fees and copy and print service. The Friends are fully back in business, doing better than ever, and we anticipate $20,000 coming from the Friends. Grants, you'll notice, is significantly high. Thank you. We are going to be requesting a state grant for the installation of fiber internet service. We anticipate that coming in at about $48,000, and that will be reflected in our operations under a special expense. But that'll be a construction grant and the equipment needed to install a fiber internet service at the library. The Town of Old Lyme, we're requesting our standard $10,000 increase for 2.74%. Miscellaneous contributions back, the $3,000 is typically what we will normally receive. Previous years have been largely inflated due to the renewal income as well as Eversource rebate and a very generous legacy gift that went into the endowment. And the state of Connecticut, if we get something wonderful, but we're not budgeting it. And then we are carrying over a small amount of cash to cover some special restricted projects that I'll talk about later. Any questions on the income side?
What level is the endowment at this point?
About $4.8 million.
I checked just at the end of today. 5.15.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Today. I'm impressed because last week it was 4.7.
I think we reversed. I think we had a little dyslexia on that one. So, because at the end of February in your report, 5.4 is where we were.
Yep, dyslexic.
You wrote down 4.5. Right?
I did. Yep. I did write 4.5.
So 5 point. We'll call it 5.2, but that is down in the last week and a half.
Yeah,
that's been
That's right. Time.
Yeah. Any other questions? I just wanted quickly on the grant towards the fiber installation. Is there a special program for libraries like there is for schools and towns? Is there any way that infrastructure that's in place to here or to the schools can be tied in for the library?
So it is, there's a special program for libraries that is connected with CEN, which services schools. It's a full state contract for the fiber. I'm still on the periphery learning the full details, but my understanding is that it will be pulled from the existing fiber and interconnected. And
It just seems, 51,000, 48,000 for that's. Yeah,
so that's the whole package is run by the state library system. It goes out to bid. So it's really the library just saying, this project that you've bid out, we're participating. And they're running the entire thing, and we're creating the building or offering the building to receive it.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
All good. No.
Okay. All right, moving into operations, we have put in a 4% increase for payroll. We've done a salary analysis based on a regional benchmark assessment done by the Connecticut Library Association in 2021, and just making some adjustments there in addition to a cost of living adjustment. Unlike the school, our health insurance is anticipated to go up again pretty significantly. When we met with Jude last week, we started actually talking about the opportunity maybe to explore what we could do, like the town and the school, to maybe work in that collaborative environment. We have a very, very small pool, and it shows in our expenses.
even if there were a library pool similar to...
Right. You know, I've looked in the past, and I haven't found a library pool. I found a couple nonprofits, but it hasn't been, we haven't had the connections we've needed necessarily to engage, but I'm hopeful, especially with the school.
And I think I asked you how many full-time employees you had in part-time. I don't have that number with me.
So it's 6 and 5.
Okay. And there was only the 2 people actually participating in the healthcare.
Right.
To make matters worse.
Yes. Yeah. Defined contribution plan, that increase is in direct result of the payroll increase. And then professional development, we've found during the course of the pandemic, we've been able to allow staff the time to engage in more continuing education and development, and that has directly reflected in our services. So we're putting more money toward that to support that going forward. Utilities, we're suffering like all from the increase in energy prices. I'm just hoping what we've budgeted here will actually hold true a year from now. Time will tell. Yeah. And once we have that fiber installation, there is a small increase in our monthly fee, and that's reflected here. Library materials and services, again, due to the work that was done through the renewal campaign and our promises to the community, we're increasing that by 10%. Hope to increase that going forward as well. On the opposite side, due to the changes in the building, we're reducing some of our maintenance fees. So our building and equipment line items down 8%. Business expenses, just our standard operations, are up 1%. Our fee to libraries online, which is the consortium we participate in with 30 other libraries in the region, is going up for the first time in 4 years. 2%. And then our regular insurance is going up 5%. For a total of a 4% on operations. And then I mentioned some of those special project expenses. So this is where you'll see the expense for the fiber installation. We have a $10,000 gift this year to install a story walk somewhere in town. We're working with some community partners to get that going. And then we have an expense for a little over $5,000 to continue the Tales of the Phoebe. If any of you saw our birthday video a few weeks ago, we'll have more of those from a special grant that we'll be expending.
Any questions?
Your budget presentation is always great, and every year it gets better. Please understand it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Good job, Katie.
Stellar.
Katie, did you say you have 6 employees covered with medical?
No. Six covered, but only 2 participating.
So
6 eligible, 6
right.
full-time, 5 part-time, and only 2 participating.
Yeah.
It's a small number, so I guess maybe they're not families.
It's 2 individuals. So.
And you never know what that's going to be.
I know, and that's one of the, I warn the board every year.
Yeah.
You know, this line could quadruple.
You don't know.
I spoke to someone today who said they paid $4.75 a gallon for heating oil today.
Yeah.
Which prompted my husband to get online and call him on the phone. $4.74 in Hartford, and other places around the state, $4.68, $4.80.
It's going to be cheaper to burn your furniture pretty soon.
Yeah. You got it. I was like, so
well, fortunately, it's getting warmer.
Budgets are going to be,
so the furnaces
who
can
knows?
rest. Any questions for any of our guests from the library? No?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And does anyone want more paper? I know some of you received one.
It's easy to put on our shelf with the other packets that are bound so nice instead of.
I'm good.
I'll take one.
It's a good.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Nice to see you guys. After our own meeting.
There you go. Lime Academy.
I don't think anyone is here from the
Okay.
Academy, so Maria and I will speak to it.
Okay.
Let's see. In your budget book, I think you'll notice that the request was for $20,000,
Right.
which is the same as last year.
Yep.
However, Michael Duffy, the chair, was not able to meet with us, so Maura Rowe, I think is her last name, did meet with us, and she works in development, so there was not a budget that she brought or a projection for a budget. She listed 3 or 4 lines that they had some community events that they'd like to share with the community in an effort to become more involved with the community. And her request is for $25,000. So if you pass this around, I've asked her to please send something speaking to that. I think also tonight it was passed around a copy of their last year's budget. I expect it's them. There's no header, no name, no date. It just says what last year's budget was. So I don't know if you've received that.
I passed it around as like part of one of the...
Did you?
Yeah,
And on the back,
Yeah, I was wondering.
In the
This
stack.
probably doesn't have
Doesn't have a name.
It says revenue.
right, and there's a second page attached to that, what I received for a...
Go over to page 2, then.
That's the budget
This
request.
is the budget request, which is the
That's
second
it.
page.
Yep. Okay. I know.
Okay. So if you're looking for this in your packet, that's the first page.
Okay. And I also believe maybe Nicole, did you pass around, or did you come through, an explanation of what they've done in the community this year, or what they've participated in? I don't know if it was given to you. No, that's for the upcoming year. No? Let's see, I don't think I've received anything else from her, but they've been, I have a handout which sort of summarizes what they've done over the last year. They have 14 full-time students. They've added some paid classes where people from the community can come in and take classes. They are not accredited, but they are a fine arts program. And they're hoping by the end of this year to have 26 to 28 students in this core fine arts program, full-time students. Last year, I think we understood why there wasn't much presented. They had just opened up, they were new to the community and had not started taking students. I have mixed feelings about the increase in the budget because I don't feel that we were really given much information about their proposed budget or what their needs are for the next year. They do have a 990 that's completed and is available. So I don't know if we want to ask more questions or pass the 25 or pass the 20.
Well, in the past, the bulk of our support has gone towards perhaps infrastructure stuff. Nicole?
I'm sorry, I think I did please clarify their community involvement.
Right.
And it does say 10,000 for sounds on the ground.
Nicole, that's their budget for next year. That's all I received.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's attached. It is the request, but that was, most of the organizations give us their budget and the request. That second page with 4 lines on it is all I have received.
That's all.
Right, okay?
The extra 5,000 would be to help the 25 of these types of programs.
Right, and I'm supportive of that, but I don't know if the board would
Yeah, that's
want
not
more
normally what
detail.
we've supported them.
Yeah.
That's,
Midsummer festival stuff.
yeah.
I could ask for, I was told they are in the process of working on their budget for 22-23, but it wasn't available yet. So I think they're good neighbors. I think they've done a great job launching their programs. They're very active. They have staff, but it's up to you if you want more information.
Well, it's up to the whole board.
Right.
Again, if I look at history of things that we've been requested to fund the Lyme Academy of Fine Arts, it really hasn't been events. We haven't been asked to underwrite events, and that's not really, I don't think...
And if Kelsey were here tonight, he may have been able to explain more. I think he's on that board.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but he might have more
But
information.
it's still...
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like the events they're asking for are in conjunction with town things.
which are not necessarily approved yet.
Right.
So I have mixed feelings on it.
Yeah.
And they, last year's budget is it's a budget. I don't know where they stand at this point within their budget.
Well, maybe we should just ask them for a better, breakdown. Michael wasn't able to be there. I know he was disappointed he missed the meeting. And although Maura was super helpful, this doesn't tell us much.
Well, and, you can see if you look at the history, our budget has gone from supporting them with 10,000, 18-19 it went to 12,500, 8,700, 1,000 when they were kind of in limbo, nothing.
Right.
And then this current year it was 20, which I assume is in their, since this is the current year budget we have, our 20 is falling under government and philanthropic grants of $100,000 total. And again, I know in the past, I think there was a screen for a classroom or something that we underwrote going back to, 7 or 8 years, something like that. It just seems like there was some fixtures, some capital expenditures.
Right, we funded.
That we funded, that we were requested, and we funded those. Again, feedback on the request for 25 and what it's being asked for, I think is important. And I don't know if them providing us more information on this is going to be helpful. If that's
things like farmers market and craft fair, are they charging vendors fees at those?
This hasn't been
I know it hasn't been approved. I know it hasn't been approved yet, but I would like to better understand how that costs $10,000.
And last year we were pretty receptive to giving them or awarding them the 20,000 because they had been inactive and the board was not cohesive or functioning well, and their mission was not defined. And I wouldn't have a problem with the 20, but I also don't want to cut them short if they need the 25. But I feel a little reluctant to give it to them because they want to do some community farmers market.
I mean, they're asking for the 25 for
based on that.
Music festivals, tree lighting, and
Easter egg hunt,
and the farmers market and craft fair. I mean, that's. I don't think that's our goal with any of our not-for-profit partners, is to be funding things like this. So
I'll ask for more information, even a draft of their budget for the upcoming year, so we can see what direction they're headed in.
As well, Judith.
Excuse me?
You might want to ask them for their
Right. I have their 990. I can share that, bring it to the next meeting if you like, or share it online.
A lot of that was restricted, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Big portion of it.
Yep.
They were working at getting some of it unrestricted, so that would be a question to see if they were successful. I think there was one particular grant that they were.
Maura was helpful, but it's not her job necessarily. Yeah. I know she was standing in, so maybe we ask Michael to give us more information.
The thing is, we're coming to the end of our process, and we have a budget that we have to deliver. So I guess our choices are wait till next week. If they give us more information, we can hear about it. Look at the amount that we're willing to give them with the information we have in our hands. Open to any suggestions.
I mean, I'd love a chance to give them an opportunity to give us more information.
Okay.
If for some reason that's
see if they can come next week.
Okay.
You might soft pedal the extra base budget and less about new endeavors.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, again, in our past with the not-for-profit partners, we typically have not underwritten events.
No. And as
so they might want to look at what their request is for.
We tried to explain to her that even if the budget has not been approved by their board yet, it gives us an indication of what's going on and how supportive we can be. So. Okay. I'll reach out to them.
So if we can, I guess push it till next week. along with a few other things that we have for next week? Thank you. Florence Griswold.
I don't think anyone is coming tonight for the Florence Griswold.
And that's a flat request? And they're,
Yeah,
and,
It's the same as
It's been
it's
the
always
same,
been.
yeah,
Right,
Yep.
here we go.
okay,
They did give me a draft of their budget, if anyone cares to see it, but their request is the same as it's always been. Their endowment is $24 million, if anyone needed to know that. They have 23 full-time employees, 100 to 200 volunteers. They are looking for a director of finance, if anyone.
okay.
Okay.
And they're doing the roof this year, I think, right?
This is the Progress or the Art Academy?
Oh, I was thinking Flowgriz, but maybe I'm confusing the two. You're right, the Art Academy.
All right, Lime Art Association.
Academy.
That's also a flat request?
Are we talking Lime Art?
LA.
I've got so many papers here.
Yeah, the Lime Art Association was the same flat request.
Yep. They are also doing a major fundraiser, capital project, skylights, things like that. This is phase 2 of their
Yeah.
We also have neighborhood assistance grant, which gives them access to tax-free money from businesses that can take the deduction, so.
Oh, good.
They've done a good job fixing up over the last 5 to 10 years, the outside.
They have, and they're going to continue to do that.
Yep.
They have a 4-project plan.
Yep.
That was the first. The
Mhm.
roof is the second.
Mhm.
And the last one, Historical Society. You're up. Is that
Thank
right,
you.
John?
Sorry you were last in the group.
In the group, right?
Chuck, the sheet here and everything else, so that's a good thing. Thank
Track
you.
of the sequence.
Yeah, well, so are we.
Lost track of it.
Group them all at once. I had them in a room before I left the house, flipping back and forth.
Oh, boy.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm John Pope, and I'm the chairperson of the Board of Trustees for the Historical Society.
And I'm Amory Jewett. I'm the treasurer for this.
She's really the person we can't do without.
Also, you sent us your budget. Put it
In our book.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
You want to speak to the request?
Well, yeah, I'll just give you a little general overview. I mean, like everybody, we got smacked with COVID.
Mhm.
The biggest problem with us was that impacted our income substantially because we use that building for a lot of what we do, particularly since in 2017, the summer of 2017, we started doing a lecture series. And while we didn't charge anybody, we asked for donations, and they were usually pretty substantial. And we had 60 to 70 people in that building. But since then, we've kept on with those programs, but we've had to do them by the ubiquitous Zoom. And although we had one Zoom one, then we got people from Maine and New Hampshire and every place else. So it drew on a big crowd. We had like 130 people at one of them, which is really impressive. And we asked for donations and told them to go on the website and everything else. But as everybody probably knows, that sort of gets pushed aside and it's easy to avoid, which is what most people did. That's okay, because part of our mission is to be involved in the community and to put ourselves out there and do programs of interest for the community. So we try as hard as we can for that, but we did take a hit. On the other side of that coin, though, is we got a little more aggressive in terms of looking for funding, and we did get a Lord Foundation grant for $5,000 that ended in October of 21, and we submitted for that, and we received that. That was specifically COVID-related to help organizations that needed a boost up because of a lack of income and so forth. And the other one was a Connecticut Humanities operating support grant, which we just received, so it doesn't show up on here. We just received that, and that was $7,200. That is going to help us with our outreach and trying to, well, let's put it this way. We have a lecture coming up Wednesday night with Ned Pfeiffer on the Nihantics, and we're doing that in combination with Phoebe Griffin-Noyes, and we've been lucky to do a couple like that. But they have the technology that we don't necessarily have, and that's one of the part that we're going to spend on this grant. These are some of the things that we're going to have to do. And Zoom is here to stay. And in a lot of ways, we can reach out to more people if we have a hybrid kind of presentation, which means we need certain equipment that's a little more sophisticated than what we have now. And so that's part of the reason we got the grant. So things are looking up, but in the same sense, we could always use that money. And we're thinking of, we're looking at operating costs. We estimated, and we had to do this in order to get all the grants, we estimated that we had about 14,000 to 16,000 hours of volunteer work. We have no paid staff. So a lot of government kinds of grants and things we would not qualify for because we don't have paid staff. The Connecticut Humanities one didn't require that, so we could apply for that, and that's a good shot in the arm for us. But we're hoping that with the money we have, we can continue to maybe hopefully keep the building open. The next 2 lectures we have scheduled, as sent out in our newsletter, hopefully we can have them in the building.
When are those?
We have one on artesian tiles, the new building, the new business down here on Lime Street. He's going to do a presentation. And the other one is on the origin of the American flag, the history of how the American flag has developed over time. Jim Meehan, somebody on our board, is going to be doing that one. Those are 2. We're trying to get some more lined up as well. But it takes time. It takes effort. We usually do about 4 to 5 every year, and usually from the spring through the summer. They really don't require any expense except having the building open, which is the good part about them. That's, I think, I can't leave here without mentioning the fact that since October of 2020, we have had volunteers in the archives working. We've had air purifiers in there. They're sitting with masks on, and it's a small place. We've also had our Tuesday morning work crew continuing to work. And they finished the adjunct to the archives area, which is like, it's a work room, break room kind of thing. There's a small alcove there. They can sit. People can come in. They go through some of the things we have in our collections. And part of our grant request was to sort of make our collections more open to the public, but in the same sense, also have the security and keep the integrity of that collection, so that we're not an antique shop where we can take things in and then we go sell them and make money on them. No, we bring them in, people give those things to us with the expectation that they'll be taken care of. So we take care of them in our climate-controlled archives area that we have. Glad to say that when we had the big flood with Ida, was it? I guess that's what it was. Yeah, I try to forget the name of those things. They just bring back bad memories. We had a little bit of water in there because of the way there's a lot of runoff from the school system that comes down into our area. But the archives area was totally dry. The way it was designed to be a totally enclosed room, and nothing got destroyed and nothing got affected. So that we knew it worked. We figured it would work, but this was a big show, and it did work. So, anyway, I'll stop there and see if you have any other questions.
I think Maria will support me on this. You look at the front door of the building, and you think, oh, it's this old antique little building I'm going in for a tour.
If you haven't been there, been in the archive, or the new lift that looks like it's from the Jetson family, it's all glass, 4 sides, so you in a little elevator. It only goes up and down one flight. But we're talking state-of-the-art inside Tub building, the archive, the technology. You guys have done a wonderful job.
It really
Thank
is.
you.
It really is amazing. Truly, if you haven't had a chance to have a tour, it was just excellent to see. So I absolutely support you, and I think that I was excited and surprised when you showed me, and it was great.
Yeah, they do amazing work. And we try to use, and we have used, all local businesses
That's awesome.
to do this.
You also fundraise to get the money to paint the outside.
Yeah, we haven't, right, we haven't really done a not since I've been chairperson, which is since 2018. We haven't really done a fundraising letter or anything like that. We rely mostly on membership donations, but we really needed to get that building painted. So we did a fundraiser, which we hadn't done in a long time. And we asked for $10,000, and we got far more than what we expected. So there's a lot of community support out there, and we were really pleased. And that goes right into the building expenses again, because we still have more things to do. The front porch area, the back entrance area, there's a lot of things. It's an old building. We can't have anybody in there because, well, the HVAC system and the distribution of the air is really phenomenal. No, I'm kidding. There is none. It's non-existent, okay?
The archive.
Yeah, except for the archives, exactly.
But you can also see. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, so your ask this year from the town is the same as it was last year?
That's correct. Yep.
$7,500.
$7,500.
7,500 or 6,500 last year?
No,
75.
2 years ago?
2 years it was 65.
Okay. That's right. Okay, great. Good. Any other questions? Super.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Stop in and give us a look. I think you'll appreciate it.
Andy, could you move open space up?
Yep, make that motion.
I'll make a motion to move open space up for the next.
Mayor, second? Seconded?
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Come on, Dan. Thanks for your patience. Just get to the page.
Before we start, has everyone received open space?
And Martha and Matt want.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Evan Griswold, and co-chair. Who's going to be talking about one of the projects that involves the budget, and our secretary,
Hi, welcome.
has put together all of the information you've received. I know you guys may not have had a chance to look at what the Open Space Commission has been doing over the last year, but we have been a busy group, and it's been a very busy time for open space, the town's open space. Certainly in the last 2 years with COVID, the activity on open space properties has been enormous in comparison to years past. And there also have been some other developments with, wildlife issues and trail use and lots of other things. And I assume that everybody is aware that we had an active acquisition going on in 2021, which unfortunately did not come to pass for various reasons, but can't be successful 100% of the time. So But in conjunction with pursuit of the goals set out in the plan of conservation and development, we are always looking for open space opportunities for the town, because with the use of limited amount of open space we have, I mean, I know it was mentioned earlier that the town of Lyme has, 50% of the town, and it's a larger town than in square miles. It's a larger town than Old Lyme, but they have 50% of the town is open space and protected open space. We're at barely 20%. We'd like to get a little more than that. So, also, just when we're going through the budget items, we've spent the last month or two sorting out how best to categorize our budget, and so there's some shifts in the budget in front of you that is I don't think has much to do with the numbers, but just how they're categorized. The first one being that under the open space legal, that budget for last year was $10,000. We're asking $14,000 is which involves we have three for our properties. They're all part-time, but there are other expenses such as trail maintenance, and especially for creating bridges for wet spots and signs, educational signs. We have installed one beaver flow device, and we expect to probably need more. And these, so that all comes out sort of lumped under stewardship.
And that's part of legal, Evan?
That's what was.
I just wanted to comment on.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm one, meaning the clerk is really the 1764.
Okay.
Okay.
Legal is really the 3,000.
Okay. Yeah, ours,
okay.
our sheet's out of alignment.
It's contracted stewardship.
Okay, that's
Okay.
right, I'm confused too.
That's okay, that helps, that's super helpful.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thanks, Nicole.
I'm looking at it
We don't
thinking.
need that.
Yeah, wondering, looking at the legal,
Okay,
14,000.
Yeah.
Since I printed it from home, but Nicole had some that passed out earlier. Here we go.
They probably ended up.
Let's see, open space. So everything shifts down a line. I'm like, that's a lot of money
If
for
I may
legal.
just mention that we had met with Nicole, and putting all those numbers under contractual service stewardship would give us the ability, when we label the invoices that they come in, how much we spend on each property. This is what McCall is costing us, this is what Ames is costing us, and so forth, and we can better track our expenses.
That's great.
What is the file storage?
The file storage, I'll let
I
Greg.
can get into that. We had talked about that in our briefing. So as it stands now, all of the state's official town documents are in private residences. As secretary, I have about 3 gigabytes, about 1,400 files on my computer. Now, I'm pretty computer savvy. Some members may not be. And when Diana Atwood Johnson, who was the chair, passed away, we never had access to her computer, so who knows what she had on there, but we got boxes of unsorted documents that we had to sift through. And to give you a practical example, as Evan mentioned, we tried for an acquisition, and I drafted a grant to the state for half of that cost. And one of the requirements was what other grants has the town gotten from DEP for open space? I had no idea. I had to ask DEP, what did you give us? We didn't have the file. So what we want to do is just have an account, Dropbox, Microsoft, any kind of cloud service, and just have our documents up there. So number one, they're secure, and number two, they outlive volunteers that put them there, and remember access to them. As we mentioned at our budget briefing, we would much prefer to have this done as part of an overall town thing. So you tell us where to put the documents, we'll do them. We don't really want to do it ourselves. We talked to Nicole about that, and we're kind of stymied about that. But basically, it's a matter of security and continuity.
And it seems to be a recurring problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we came up sort of in our meeting is that this IT, file storage, some sort of technology-related assistance coming up under a lot of different departments. Commissions, boards, departments.
Committees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're wondering, this is probably more of a question for you, Nicole, if it's possible to pull those items out and get a sense for what the total IT ask is, because there may be...
There is no IT.
Well, there's a committee that...
Right.
And I've heard that request from other commissions, they come in and drop them off. So I did send an email to the IT committee that at this, I don't know if this should be IT, I don't know if this is
Right.
office issue, but please consider it in your budget.
Right. I mean, it seems like something like, I wonder how many other commissions have documents, files, whatever, sitting on people's personal computers.
And we had the same thing happen with harbor management, because it was that huge river dredging project, and all these boxes were somebody's house.
Right.
Thankfully, they came in and paid. Frankly, they didn't know where they were. So I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Right. We need to
Yeah.
hear from
So
the IT.
Well, wait
We can
till
get a meeting.
we've had multiple meetings in the last 5 days, so IT committee. And we have another one tomorrow.
Well, that's a separate issue.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
I think it's a totally reasonable line item, but I think that
and I'm sure
there's
there's
probably some buying power to.
Well, there's got to be some FOI issues too.
Yeah.
That would
that's the main
that would
thing.
be another thing. If
somebody wanted to...
Kim gets a request, what did you do about this?
Yeah.
I mean, the Blair, our co-chair is on I-95 somewhere between Florida and Connecticut now. She's got the document. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's more a town board of selectmen setting a policy for this stuff, and then we figure out how we...
People do have email addresses on the town hall system, so they should technically be using that instead of their personal.
Well, that was a question we asked our contractor today, if he could track how much those accounts are actually used, because I think there are 57 non-employee email accounts that we're paying for, which are for boards and commissions. Not each member, but the chairperson. And, we're paying for those pretty significant. It all adds up when you have 57 of anything, times 12 months a year. And if they're not being used, we either have to come up with a policy that they do have to be used for town business, because work that you do it could be subject to FOI, and I don't think anybody wants somebody going into your personal email accounts to extract information.
And you may not be aware.
I had no idea that there was a town account for...
I assume there's one for open space.
Yeah, Amanda Blair has
Hi.
Evan,
Hi, it's Amanda. I'm up on...
Evan,
Amanda online?
he doesn't have the ability to use it.
No. Is there somebody on the phone?
Hi, it's Amanda Blair.
Okay, well, we weren't aware that you were there. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, welcome. I've listened to all your presentations, and my cheeseburger was wonderful. So I just want to say I monitor the Open Space Commission emails. I find it very helpful because people contact me on all different matters between beaver activity and problems with dogs and anything else, and how do they volunteer or even thank yous. So I think those open space and the other email accounts for us are very helpful because it's feedback that we receive on our programs. So it's very good. As for the storage, because I don't know if you all know, I do legal research and title searching, and I know when I was researching the establishment of the Open Space Commission, our records were actually supposed to be kept in the town clerk's office, but Vicki, has no room in there. If we're a regulatory commission, such as planning and zoning, all of their records are kept in land use. But our records, especially records like our conservation easements and things, which have to be monitored and documented and reviewed by a number of people, need to be accessible. I myself at my house have over 12 feet of files on open space. Some I inherited from Diane, some I've created with the purchase of McCulloch and the ongoing two affordable housing lots. So the storage issue is really critical for the history and for the town of Old Lyme to have these documents, but have them accessible to commission members. It would be very helpful.
Well, I know when this town hall was under construction and we were meeting many of our meetings were down at Christ the King, one of the items that we funded at that time was scanning a bunch of documents, a lot, a year's worth, and I'm not sure where those. I'm sure they're accessible on our computers, but in terms of boards and commissions who are doing work like this, obviously, rather than coming up with more storage space in terms of file cabinets, it should be stored electronically so it is accessible.
But I think we also need a hard copy, and I have had access to 2 rooms for open space documents. The first one, our files were removed without our knowledge, which is very upsetting. Now they're in a second room, and then I've heard that there is an available space potentially, but we're storing the sheet music from the high school plays in there, which is more important than our open space documents, I was told.
The Board of Finance, honestly, we're not going to get in the middle of that. That's a town hall issue. Our goal here is the funding and operation of our boards and commissions, and certainly trying to support that operation in a reasonable fashion. So, other questions? Open space?
I'm not sure we finished going through this budget.
No, I think
The request this year is for $23,264, as well as increasing your open
space fund
from $75,000 a year to $150,000.
We have at $75,000 for 20 years. At this point, roughly 20 years. And so obviously the buying power has been eroded as real estate prices, and I've been in the business for 40 years and seen real estate values in Old Lyme go up substantially, and so $75,000 probably won't buy you a lot in Old Lyme at this point.
What's the current fund balance, Nicole? Do you know? Is it in here?
About $418,000.
$18,000. Okay.
And it was less at one point before the 75. It was like 50. Way back.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 75 for as long as I can remember, which is going back about 18 or 19 years. So
that's about right.
I think that's. I also know the town has, when a purchase is made available, the town at town meetings, which would have to approve it anyway, has approved additional funding for that. So I think it's looking at the budget, does it make sense to put the extra $75,000 away now, or know that $400,000, $500,000 may or may not allow the town to acquire a piece of property A, that purchase would have to go before the town anyway, even if the money is there, but B, it could be an additional one-time appropriation if, let's say, it's a $600,000 purchase. So there's different ways of looking at it. You know, do we tax people now for something that may happen in the future, which we are partially doing with the $75,000, as we do with other of our funds. You know, I guess if you never know when something's going to come, but I don't recall any time in my involvement here that the Board of Finance has turned down, or the town has turned down, an open space purchase. So, I mean, that's, I guess...
Well, it also avoids the town having to go to bonding. A lot of towns do that. I know East Haddam, for instance, has a sort of floating $5 million bond authorization that they can draw on at any time. And it's held them in good stead. But, I mean, that's a different kettle of fish.
And, you know, that is really, that part of the budget will be at a different point in our process, which will be next week. So it's good to have the request here, and we can look and see how our years coming together. Certainly was great news with Region 18, except for the fact that Old Lyme's still at that 80% level, probably.
So the one issue I would make, and Evan can probably amplify this or speak to it better than I as a real estate professional, is when you were negotiating for a property, there were multiple steps. We would go to the Board of Selectmen, we would go to you guys, we'd go to planning, and then to a town meeting. And that, when you make an offer to someone, it's all contingent of waiting for that approval process to complete. So you need, in effect, a somewhat patient cycle.
And I mean, the process would be the same whether we had 100% of the funds in that fund. It still has to go to town meeting. So that town meeting, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, at the town meeting, whether it be one item that would be, you know, to vote to purchase XYZ property for open space for $750,000 with $400,000 coming out of the open space fund and $350,000 out of reserves.
To the source.
You know, or bonding or matching grant from the DEP or something like that. We would still, even if the gross amount were $750,000, we would have to get approval for the whole amount, no matter what the funding source is. So I don't think it would slow the process down at all. Still, I know it's a multi-step, and maybe the seller might feel more comfortable if you said, well, the town's got 100% of the money in the bank. But
I understand.
To some degree we do, because we have a healthy reserve. And that's one of the reasons to give us the opportunity so we don't have to bond. We haven't in the past, at least for open space.
So that was, that's pretty much it.
Evan, at the top, wait a minute. Gap lots.
Oh, that was also.
Capital item?
Okay. So I just
it's having to do, it's not, Tree in the Gap was a parking lot we put in for the McCulloch property. Money was spent 2 years ago. This money is for a project that Ann is heading up for us at Ferry Landing. We have the town owns property that was part of the Eklund subdivision set aside, and we are, and that whole area that the town owns, the pond and an adjacent lot is a key area for migratory birds and other wildlife, both spring and fall. I mean, the Connecticut River is a huge flyway for the East Coast. And as I'm sure you all know, the Connecticut River is a hot spot for all sorts of conservation organizations, and including Audubon and the Nature Conservancy, and we have the DEP headquarters here, and now the new NOAA project, the Estuary Research Reserve. And so we're hoping to be able to tap in a little bit on some of the federal money that for research at Eklund Pond. But I'll let, if you want to say a few things.
Sure. Just in a nutshell, the parcel that is contiguous to the pond that is owned by the town is right now in pretty sad shape, completely overrun with invasives. We have another now member of the commission did an inventory for us of trees and herbaceous species on site, and he said, I don't know if there's anything but invasives on this property. So in order to make it hospitable for both migratory and perennial species, we'd like to go in a phased approach, start removing the invasives, introducing appropriate native species, and essentially creating a hospitable habitat, a wildlife refuge. It's the goal, and it dovetails really nicely with the National Estuary Research Reserve, which just got approved federally. So, we're excited about it. It's got a lot of educational potential to the community and sort of the greater regional area. Again, to do some collaborating regionally and in the context of the Connecticut River Valley.
Yeah.
And we have submitted a grant proposal to the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut for, sort of the non-hard costs, if you will, of the first year of what we're trying to get established. And they were really helpful, actually, in pairing us up with Three Rivers Community College. So if we get the grant, we're hoping to do an internship program involving some of their students.
And Evan, did you tell me that the federal, I don't know what offices will be opening at the DE?
The new
some of these projects?
National Estuary and Research Reserve office will be housed in the DEP headquarters down on the Connecticut River. And if you, in a nutshell, there are 30 of these or more of these reserves around the country, and this is Connecticut's first. And it runs from the Connecticut River all the way to the Rhode Island border. It includes the lower Connecticut River estuary, including Lord's Cove in Old Lyme and Lyme, and Great Island, the Roger Torrey Peterson management area. On land, it also involves Bluff Point in Stonington and Haley's Farm in Mystic, I think. And then quite a swath of Long Island Sound. Evidently, unbeknownst to many of us, the bottom of Long Island Sound is really interesting biologically, and so there's a lot of research that's going on there. Anyway, they will have their research budget for the year is about $1 million, and so I'm sure there'll be people from UConn and Connecticut College and Three Rivers, and they're all clamoring for research money, but we'd like to.
If I might add to.
I just had a question really for clarification. So it's not the money for 7,000, it's the one for parking lot.
No.
Or creating an estuary, it's not a parking lot.
Correct. Yeah. I was going to say too that there's a lot of money from a lot of different sources to deal with invasive species.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is what Ann's group will do, is just kind of do some research and kind of come up with a plan. And once we have a plan, I think there are a lot of funding opportunities. I serve on the Gateway Commission, and Gateway offers grants for that.
Mm-hmm.
Christine Palm introduced legislation to establish an Office of Aquatic Invasive Species, and there's a new registration at the state level that the money is devoted to dealing with aquatic invasive species. So I think a lot of funding opportunities that will certainly address what you're saying as well.
Yeah. But this would be seed money to get things going.
And did you have another, you had, is this part of capital, the 7,000? Because you had something in capital for 7,000.
That's what it is, right?
Okay,
That's what it is.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And the 2,500 that was in capital, was that for IT storage?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. What I had was a few days, 2 days old. Thank you, Nicole.
So I just have a few questions, actually. So you mentioned in our meeting yesterday that was that they were going to you would be using some type of herbicide on some of the trees to kind of basically kill those trees because you really couldn't get a machine in there effectively to get those invasives out. Can you talk about the herbicides that you had mentioned yesterday?
Well, what I was saying yesterday was that one way we're trying not to do any kind of broadcast of herbicides and to be very strategic about it. And but use of some short-term herbicides on a very focused way. The trees would be girdled, and then the herbicide would be dripped without spraying it all over the place. You drip the herbicide into the cut around the tree, and that's taken down into the root system, and it kills the tree. And then you take them out before they get to the point where they're going to be falling down and becoming a danger.
Would there be an impact to the pond with the herbicide in the ground and the water?
Not that I'm aware of. It's usually something like Roundup is relatively short-lived. The half-life of Roundup, even though it may be some issues when it's sprayed out of helicopters and planes, and that there have been some issues with it.
If I could sort of
go ahead.
piggyback on that. So also, I think really this first year of the project is and to some degree exploratory, in that, and again, hopefully with the help of various research support, we're going to be evaluating what the most effective, safe, and cost-effective options are for addressing invasives on town property. So this project could conceivably, create kind of a best practices guidebook, if you will, for the other properties in town that we manage. So.
I would also mention, excuse me, in that I don't think anybody in the commission is in favor of any indiscriminate use of herbicide. And I would kind of thank the Board of Selectmen, because we have put together, I think, a really impressive commission. That we have 2 PhDs on the commission, another new member who's got 40 years in land use experience, and is an expert in it. So we've got a lot of great minds working on this and to come up with the best safe solution.
That's good to hear for sure. How much is the grant that you applied for?
Sorry, I need to look at that. It was nine
and change.
Yeah, I think it was
9,000.
9,200.
And then part of the plan that I looked over also mentioned that you were hoping that some of the neighboring properties that also abut the pond would buy into some of the things that you're looking to do. What are you asking of those neighbors exactly in terms of a replanting plan of some sort, or I know that you're going to reach out to those neighbors, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on trying to motivate them, or what you're asking of them in terms of a replanting plan.
Well, we would hope. My own personal feeling is that at this point, anybody who owns land ought to be thinking about making that land as friendly to native wildlife as possible, and that's usually involves the planting of native plants, and obviously we have now a great deal of interest in the town of Old Lyme with the pollinator pathways and sustainable Old Lyme, and we'd like to get all those groups involved. But the neighbors, and I know I'm doing it on my own property, we're changing out our garden and letting fields go somewhat fallow so that grass nesting birds can be coming back, and so there's an awful lot of work going on everywhere here in the Connecticut River estuary, and we would like everybody, including the neighbors, to buy into that really great work of returning the land to real productivity of native species, and which will help not only our resident species but also the migrating birds and other wildlife that.
Well, I personally think that I love the idea of definitely planting native species, but I do get concerned about the idea of sort of getting those neighbors to buy in on that. And I know that you're in a unique position right now because there's an application in front of Open Space as well as inland wetlands on 314 Ferry. So, I mean, it's sort of a delicate balance there, but I would love to see like a replanting plan in place before applications are approved, as you're asking all the other neighbors to buy in. But I myself, as a neighbor around, am absolutely in favor of it, and I believe that, you know, I would buy into a replanting plan.
Yeah.
I love watching the birds, as Ann knows, but it does make me a little concerned when I heard herbicide yesterday, and then also a little concerned with the idea that, you know, we have to get everyone involved and get excited about a replanting proposal and plan, and it's hard to motivate everybody. So.
Well, I think, as Ann said, it's sort of a work in progress, and we're hoping that we can help educate not only kids here in school, but maybe educate the neighbors on what we're doing, and then you can come and see what we're doing, and you think, oh, that might be a good idea.
Yep.
So it's going to be you know, we're not looking to do this tomorrow.
Right.
And actually, I've been on the Wetlands Commission now since 1981, and whenever we have we request or require a planting plan as part of the application and the permit, we always ask for the replanting native species and try to avoid potential invasive plants becoming rampant.
So, I mean, I think, go ahead. 2 points that I think I'm remembering correctly from our meeting. I mean, it sounds like you have a good relationship with the pollinator pathway, and I think Suzanne Thompson is probably very involved with everything you've done, and I think she's done a great job with that effort at educating the town, and I think would probably be involved in educating neighbors.
Actually, I should have mentioned we have an advisory committee for this particular project, and she's...
Yeah, I mean, I think she's done a great job with, you know, identifying all the different areas of knotweed all over the town, and I think that she's done a great job stressing the importance of getting rid of those invasive plants, and so I think that it sounds like you have the resources within your group
I think we've put together,
make that happen.
Put together a great bunch of people who know what they're doing, and Anne has really taken the bit and run with it, and it's great. And she's put together a nice group.
I would just make one comment from my own perspective. I don't think we would ever ask the neighbors to do anything that, say, sustainable Lyme isn't already suggesting for everybody in town. In other groups, pollinator pathways and so forth.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with Suzanne Thompson and Gateway. Known Cheryl Port ever since back when she worked for Flowgrid.
You have more?
I'm good.
Questions?
Volunteer, right?
Yep.
Enough, that's...
Any other questions? Great.
Good.
Thank you very much.
for coming.
Thanks for your time and
Thank you.
work you do.
Thanks for being so patient.
Oh, no, thank you for moving us up. Really grateful for that.
Right.
Uh-oh, are you stuck with it?
Take anything with
Oh, you're taking the whole phone.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's
Okay.
you're a good
Oh,
job.
no, you're still on there. You're still, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I wouldn't get very far.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, what I'd like to do, because we haven't approved anything, if you don't mind, if we go back up to other associations, 211, and then we'll just work our way right down.
Starting at the top.
Please. So, yep, the library, which the request is for $375, which is a $10,000 increase.
I'll make a motion that we grant the $375.
I'll second that.
Budget.
Okay. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye, please. Opposed? Very good. Okay, Lyme Academy of Fine Arts, we agreed to, well, I think we agreed to push that off till next week.
I'll
to get
contact them.
more, if we get more information or not, okay?
Thank you.
Florence Griswold Museum, their request is for $12,500, which is consistent with what we've given them for 14 years.
Something like that, yeah.
Do I hear a motion for the 12.5?
I'll make a motion for 12.5.
I'll second.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next item is Lyme Art Association, which is $8,000. Again, consistent with what we've been giving them for last.
I'll make a motion
All
that
right,
we approve
Jude.
the 8,000.
8,000.
I'll second.
Seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Old Lyme Historical Society.
Maria should do this one.
Their request is $7,500.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Okay, for $7,500.
Yep.
Second. Is that Mr. Garvin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, you and I can't do it anymore tonight.
I know.
Lost our team.
Sorry. We'll be back. I'll be back next week.
All right.
Any discussion?
You're on my side now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Yes.
Before we go on, there was a request by the Board of Selectmen to add 10,000, request for 10,000 for the Torrey Peterson Estuary Center.
Respiratory pollution.
So that's a new line item?
That would be new.
Okay. Can we get a little information on that?
Nope.
Well,
If we can, the Board of Selectmen's recommending it.
we had Claudia Weicker who spoke to us. As you know, they purchased the BS system and they're renovating it. They have raised so far $4.3 million for that, and they have $1.3 million to go. And they have operating reserve of $400,000. They received funding from the Community Foundation. Their program last summer had 3,500 kids from 15 towns cycling through, 150 lectures, and they're working on the grounds. I think actually the maybe Open Space and Sustainable is working on getting rid of some of the invasives and stuff, because down at the end of the property there's a nice vista of the river, but there's a big slug of stuff that needs to be removed. So they're going to try to get rid of that. So they're a pledging organization, and we can replicate their letter for you, but they're respectfully asked for $10,000 to not only help with their fundraising, because all these nonprofits, if they have support from the town, that goes a long way for receiving grants. And they're pretty deeply involved with the community and with surrounding communities, with education, environmental, and so forth. So I can get this out to people next week, this letter.
Anybody have any questions for Tim on that? I mean,
I don't think we have any good financials to go on. They're pretty new.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it certainly falls under town nonprofits.
Yeah.
That category. I mean,
Yeah.
I know they're larger in the town, but in terms of their reach, but
yeah,
a good neighbor to have up the street.
And would they anticipate asking for that sort of in perpetuity? Or is this?
Yeah, I think it would be an annual thing, and so they'd be part of that group that would come back every year, subject to review for sure.
I think given the fact that they've already raised $4 million, it's pretty indicative of their stability as well.
Yeah.
They had a
not going anywhere.
fundraiser on the grounds. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be doing that sort of thing to help fill the coffers too and spread the word.
I'd make a motion if you want one.
I don't see why not.
To move the 10 million.
What town are you in?
I was waiting to see if any.
Wow.
10,000.
Greenwich now.
I don't think you'll find a second.
So we have a motion for
Yes, for
$10,000 for the
$10,000.
Roger Tory Peterson.
Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Okay, great. Thanks, Tim. All right. I would recommend we go right down the list. So tax abatements.
We have received potential from Wright-Field and from Hope,
Candy.
which are being circulated. And Limewood is endeavoring to get their materials into us. Limewood is 24 units up on Boston Post Road. Ryefield, I think it's 53 units, if I'm not mistaken. And
Ryefield's right here, yes. Really needs to go to Dave.
Number on it.
it's not in the book, it's a tax abatement.
Oh,
On the card, it's a tax abatement,
Yeah.
a minus sign from the tax.
Just, Tim, because we have some new members here, just a reminder as to our tax abatement history, whether you or Nicole or,
That's on the sheet I handed out.
Okay.
Tax abatement come in when we delivery.
Yep.
I ended up with two.
These are, they don't, although they seem to be exempt, we think they'd be exempt, there's certain statutes that they fall under for the assessor, like housing. Unless they get a tax abatement every year from Board of Finance, it will be taxed by the assessor. It's category. And those are for you every year. Percentages. Those are what the percentages are that we approved in 21 and 22. So we went to that 80%, that actually by the assessor. Of course, they all want 100% every year, and I think we've kind of gone back and forth. But it's not really the amount. what we're not going to get from the taxes,
And there is a form they're supposed to send in there, and we've received kind of a, this is just passed down to me. There's Ryfield, their financials, their most recent audit, and then Hope, which I don't recall ever receiving anything from Hope in the past. I mean,
We've been nagging.
I mean, it doesn't, this is an audit, it's not the actual request letter, it appears. I know they've dodged us for years.
And we're still at the phase with them, right? We haven't received anything. Was there a small amount outstanding on it?
Well, there was a...
I mean, what was...
The former assessor had them in a tax abatement, but then the new assessor discovered that was not properly constituted, so they were put back on a tax roll for the I think it's 3 houses that they have, the land under the 3 houses, and they paid half of the tax bill and did not pay the second half of the tax bill. So we've been back and forth with really no progress in getting them to come up, and they alleged that if they paid the second half, they would have to backfill the occupants of the house, which is on the land for that, which we thought is kind of a cheap shot.
But that was last year, so have they paid this year as well?
It goes back more than that.
So they're not paying now either?
Well, we give them 100% tax abatement on the land.
After a certain point, after a certain date.
A couple of years ago we did.
Yeah.
So prior to that, they figured they just stonewall it and it'll go away.
I think they might have gotten 80% one year, and then it went up to 100%. I think Ryfield and Limewood are 80%, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, they are 80.
Yeah, so...
from the time that they got that tax bill,
right,
the Board of Finance,
right, gave the abatement.
There was this little timing issue, and I think they believe that it's town issue, and they wanted remember last year we would have paid it to the Board of Finance, not have that ability to abate prior years. And so last time I knew, which was probably last year, Jack Collins was working with tax law, but I'm not sure what happened to that, and I'm not sure that was gone, so I don't know.
I've not heard it's been counted.
And probably just taking a back seat.
Well, it's still, my recollection is that they are supposed to send us, there's a form letter. Isn't there a request for abatement? Or at least, I don't know.
All I know is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, the request for their information kind of came out from him.
Yep.
I don't know, we talked about it briefly.
I contacted all 3 of them.
Okay.
I don't know that we've ever had a written statement requesting a percentage or anything.
Just this. I mean, we talked to them.
I mean, they could easily do that, but...
They supplied, for the first time, to my knowledge, Hope supplied their financials, but it's the year ending June 2020. So it's not the most current one.
Well, they did say that they would be sending us 21.
Okay.
I think it might be in that letter that color letter there.
Attach Hope's most recent accountant prepared audit. Our accountant is currently preparing last year's financial, and we'll send them over as soon as they're complete. That was the email to you on March yesterday.
Right.
So.
It's not that unusual,
Yeah. Yep. We're in the same boat. So, just to, I guess, looking at this for the first time, total assets about 2.6 million.
Really?
Yeah. Liabilities 2.6. Construction in progress, some loss. Are those the ones maybe in East Lyme? Were those built by Hope? The ones by the new police station?
Hannibal did a bunch
Oh, is it?
of-
Okay. Those are 2.4 million. Their cash was about 98,000.
Maybe some land.
How much did they?
It's like
$1,200 or something?
something like that.
Three.
Yeah.
They have donor restrictions. Assets at the end of the year was 93,000. With donor restrictions, 538,000. So the bulk of their money is obviously spoken for. Their salaries and wages total are about 48,000. I mean, their operating budget and year ended last year was about 86,000. So it's not like it's a.
And just for historical for the news people, there was a time where we had given Vinewood 100%
Yeah.
right. Good financial kind of situation, and Ryefield really didn't get nothing at that
Right.
point, and they got an attorney to say that they should get the same percentage. So really, you try to look at the percentage. Well, I do.
That's right.
So we can look at those financials, but I don't know if that's, you know, it's really
Well, it's a matter, I mean, yeah, we could tax them, you know, give them an 80% instead of 100%, but if they're not going to pay it,
Are they on the suspense list?
I don't know. I don't know, the suspense list is on the agenda tonight.
Oh, boy.
Sure. Just make sure it gets back to Michelle. David has to sign it. I'm not, he's the chairman.
You back there. You're David tonight.
That's why he's not here.
Yes, exactly.
So abatements, I mean, you know, again, their 100% abatement is 7,000. It's just a matter, as Nicole referenced, you know, do the other two organizations that are getting the 80%, do they come back and say, how come we can't get 100%?
I think when we analyzed it, they got other grants from the state of Connecticut or the federal, because there's a little difference between Ryefield and Limewood, the way the...
Limewood is HUD, isn't it?
Huh?
Limewood is HUD? No, Ryefield is HUD, I believe.
I don't know. So I think because those larger properties get other help from the outside, we justified a lesser percentage.
Yeah, I think Limewood is HUD, and yeah, because they're in trouble paying their mortgages. So is the federal government going to take their property back?
One state, one federal.
Yep.
Nobody's crabbed about it, so.
Okay. Funds. Ryefield. Any discussion on those? More information needed?
I'd like to know why we keep having the same conversation every year over this. I mean, how can we change it? Thanks, Nicole.
From December, we can compare, get into like, a long time ago, the town had a 10-year agreement for a
Right.
And then that expired, and then we kept giving them the exemption. And that's where that.
Right, it became really.
Came in, which the new assessor put them on and all of that. So So I believe for all three of these, there can be legal agreements with the town, but they would have to request it. It's not like the assessor can go out and solicit. They have to request that from the entity.
Right. Are they aware that they can request that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I don't know, so if that agreement hasn't been reached, say, with Hope, why are we just letting it go? I mean, is it time for a certified letter? What, you said it was referred to.
I guess we have to start legal action or something, I don't know.
I've been back here for 3 or 4 years now, and we've been having the same discussion.
I had the impression that you can't rebate taxes that are due.
So then they have to pay it.
And if we were to sue them, how much would that cost?
Well, see, I don't know anything about small claims court anymore. We don't even know, at one point it was like, was the invoice ever delivered?
Well, you don't have to deliver a tax bill, really.
Okay.
You know, you get an initial tax bill, but you don't have to send the second installment out and all that. It's up to the taxpayer.
Well, if they've sent us some paperwork, we obviously know how to get in contact with them.
And then if we get a lawyer to write a letter and stuff, you know, you get underwater too.
Well,
so.
what was the last correspondence? Did someone say, hey, Joe Schmo, you owe this money? Or did it just fall away? They did. And their response was, we don't need to pay.
They basically said, we don't think we owe it.
So we're not going to solve that tonight. What our mission tonight is to look at the abatements. Correct. So we've got, falling in with those is the elderly tax relief, the EMS, which you're recommending go from 30,000 to 35,000?
Yes, it's based on the
number of volunteers.
And some new ones as well, with $1,000 payment.
Yep.
And then the elderly tax relief is just, we used to get a grant for it and it doubled, and so we have to kind of treat it funky, but it's so we got to add it back. I expect that to be.
And then the three abatements, 100% for Hope, 80% for Ryfield, and 80% for Limewood. So in the case of those percentages, we're really not approving the dollar amount because we don't know.
Well, I've taken the values today.
Yep.
Of where it's going to be for next year.
Okay.
I don't have a new mill rate for next year.
Right.
So I used the 23.6 from last year.
Okay.
So I don't think it's, and I rounded up a little bit.
Okay.
So I don't expect it, even if the mill rate was a little bit to be exceeded.
So you expect the 116,000 to be a good number?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for tax abatements in the total amount for elderly tax relief, EMS volunteer tax abatement, Hope, Ryfield, and Limewood for $116,000?
Garvin.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Nicole, did you need us to approve the percentages or the final amount?
Either one, if you approve the percentages, they're up to you.
It's basically, it's what's documented here.
Yeah, I think the percentage should be in there for the record.
So, Mr. Garvin, your motion for the 116 includes the 100% for Hope, 80 for Ryfield, and 80 for Limewood?
Correct.
Your second is for that?
Yes, thank you. I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not hearing a lot of ayes around the table, but I don't hear any nays, so, okay. Boards and commissions, open space, which we just heard the presentation and request for $23,264. Do I hear a motion for that?
I'll make
a motion. Somebody else go ahead, Maria.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
All right, Maria, do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion?
And it was sending me emails from traveling up to Florida, and I've got a lot of different input.
Oh, that's not your,
No.
yeah, we understand.
You know what would be helpful, though, if we could get a printout. I'd just like to have the right printout in my book for next week. You know, just move the column down, and that'd be great. Any discussion on the $23,264?
We're approving the file storage in that? That came to us yesterday as a capital, so.
Well, but it's in the operating.
It's in the
Nicole
operating
put it in the
now,
operating.
so.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Maybe it should go under.
Well, I'm not sure they know what to do with it yet. So I don't know.
It's spearheaded by somebody in town.
Okay.
All an employee, because it's something that we can get that all boards and commissions can have their own little spot to store. That would be great. Yeah.
So would they?
I don't know who that would be.
Not a lot of space down there.
No, this is
No, like on a computer. It's like all digital.
Well, it's both. They want the paper too.
So I guess my question is, if we're approving it in their operating budget, they will have that 2,500 even if we have an IT commission that sets it up someplace else. Okay, so
Well,
I don't know where to put
the
it.
the IT committee, that position has taken a little different direction in the last week.
Okay.
So I don't, you know, certainly if there is a position there, I would think you could pull funds out of this line item for the work that person does for open space, right?
Okay.
So it can live in open space.
And if it's not used, then
Well, hopefully it
it'll
is.
remain there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 23,264,
Yes.
we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I guess the suspense list is going to make its way around the table.
Could you explain again, Andy? I mean, there's people on here. We're supposed to make notes if we know a person is deceased or where they live or if they can be contacted. And in the first 10 on the list, many of those are local business that are still operating. So I'm not sure what we're being asked for here.
Well, it's usually exactly that, just, you know, awareness, and if you can be of any help.
Hallahan Construction.
Meaning it won't show as a current amount, and you can go, you can be on the suspense list for 10 years, and then you, on a state statute, you fall off, and then that's it.
Okay, so Hope technically could go on this list.
I guess.
Well, that was the thing Jeff Collins was going to look into.
Okay, so there's your list.
Okay. So that can just continue to be passed around until we get to the end of the meeting. We'll let Mr. Kelsey sign that next week. It's supposed to be signed by the chairman.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Valley Shore Communication Adjustment, number
We received a number
205.
over the telephone from them, which is higher than our number. We have not received a letter yet, but the number that Ms. Hayes received is $157,958.
As opposed to 152?
It's about 158,000.
158?
Yeah, we'll save $42 or spend $42.
And we haven't approved that yet.
No, but we did approve it on February 1st.
152.7.
I didn't note that,
We need
okay.
to
Modify
it
to 158 instead of the 152?
7.
Okay. So do I hear a motion for, this is one of those things we really don't have much choice, Valley Shore Communications, to adjust that line item to 158,000?
I'll make a motion to adjust it to 158,000.
Thank you, Jude. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Maria. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right.
3.
Okay.
I'm writing. 8.
Okay, other business, ARPA ledge light.
Well, at the Board of Selectmen meeting, we are proceeding to a special town meeting on the 21st of March. The item to be considered will be an appropriation for Hall Road at $45,000, which has been previously acted upon by Boards of Selectmen and Finance. Another item is the ledge light, and from ARPA money, the request from ledge light was pushed by the committee to the selectmen, which approved, and then I don't know whether it's legally required the Board of Finance, but it's $21,600 going to the town meeting, coming from the ARPA fund.
That's the 1% that they've requested from all communities they serve.
From memory, I think it's $21,622.15.
Wow, that's a pretty good memory.
Is that it?
Sounds right to me. I don't have it in front of me.
You're like
21.
right on the money right there.
Or we could,
Jim's concerned about the big being set.
yeah.
I might call it 600 and let them eat $22. So, I don't know legally what the Board of Finance should do, but I guess belts and suspenders, if you guys endorse the...
Just recommend it to town meeting.
Not an appropriation, it'd be...
No?
What?
According to Jack Collins, we are supposed to go through, for ARPA money, we're supposed to do Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, town meeting.
But we're recommending it to town meeting.
Yeah, because
As
it's
we
not
do.
coming out of town, the general fund.
Right.
So we already did the Halls Road.
Yeah.
The Board of Finance did the Halls Road, so we're looking to recommend that ledge light receive 1% of our ARPA money, which is approximately $21,622. $22.15.
I'd take off the 22.15 and see what they say. See if they send us a bill.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to recommend that to town meeting?
Garvin.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second. Oh, good, you go for it. I was feeling like a big Garvin,
Thompson. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Sure.
The third item is Mr. Cribdell.
The what?
You put it, on the town meeting, you put Mr. Cribdell.
Oh, right. Well, the Council of Governments was trying to set up a system to underwrite allocations of ARPA money to businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. And I don't know that this guy will do individuals, but there was originally going to be a group in Middletown that would do this for all the towns in the COG, but that's not happening. So there is a fellow by the name of George Cribda who has been involved with the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, and he seems well suited for this, and he's already helped a couple of towns in Connecticut with their programs, actually has worked them through to conclusion. He would be prepared to do the application for a grant, let's call it, and underwriting whomever would apply, whatever business would apply. He would do the service for the town at a rate of $125 an hour with a maximum of $20,000 for whatever volume would come in. So this too would be eligible for ARPA funding administratively, and even the clerk, just as a digression, even the clerk who takes minutes for the committee can be funded through that source. So last night, the Board of Selectmen agreed to put that on the town meeting, that an amount not to exceed $20,000 for the management and processing of these types of applications that will come in. So people could be directed to an application online, they could complete it, and it would be forwarded to this person. They'd be like a loan application at a bank, and then they would take it from there and make a recommendation back. And ultimately, the committee will recommend a certain sum of dollars be allocated to this program, the gross amount of money, say $100,000, something like that. And then that would go to town meeting, say in May perhaps, when they get that figured out. So we could have pots of money for various things that could be funded through this ARPA stuff, and looking at other towns' models to see how they do it, so that we don't have to approve onesie-twosies all the way along the line. So, but this would be, try to get this person up to speed on the 21st to be able to start creating the application and start collecting forms, and on we go. So amount not to exceed $20,000 for this fellow.
So that's going to be on, that's the third item on the agenda for the town meeting?
Right.
So you're looking...
An endorsement.
Recommendation, or up to 20,000?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed, okay. So we get it right.
2066.15.
So do I hear a motion to recommend a town meeting?
I'll make that motion to approve, what's his name? Kripke?
George Kripke.
Kripke, I heard it last night too. George Kripke to process an application, create and process the application for the ARPA money for individuals, nonprofits, small businesses that need to apply.
Not to exceed 20,000.
Not to exceed $20,000.
So there's a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Great. Anything else, Mr. Griswold?
That does it.
Are we free to go? Oh, Nicole.
I just want to make sure that for next week, in addition to what we have on schedule, we're going to do IT and marketplace authority.
I know we're doing IT, and will Phil be here next week?
He is here around this week, yeah. So
Can he be at our meeting next week?
We probably ask him to do that.
That'd be great, because we're going to be talking capital next week, which... Yeah, but it'd be helpful to us, I think, to have him here.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other thing, no, we're going, how about fire marshal and emergency management?
He's supposed to be coming back next week.
Okay.
And
I didn't have a date for that.
Yep.
And then Art Academy.
And the Art Academy will be next week. We do not have...
It'll be really quick though. I don't anticipate,
Art Academy? Yeah.
Well, maybe Michael will have a chance to
And
come.
then I had a question. The Knox boxes for the fire department. I forwarded... They needed an additional appropriation to complete it, which would really be it'll be in our current budget year. So we'll need to put that on the agenda for next week as well. I think I forwarded that to Tim, you and Nicole and David.
Yeah, we have some paperwork on that those guys handed out before, and that washing machine for the...
Well, that might have to go to town meeting. The washing machine was 24. Nicole said it could come out of fire equipment, but do we have to vote on that? Or there was nothing in the minutes from that meeting that even reflected that we discussed it, that I saw.
I thought that would be an option, that other
I guess we have to replenish it.
yeah, and then just replenish it and increase it.
Who has to take a vote in order to spend that money? It's over the Board of Finance threshold, even though it's in an equipment fund. I mean, I know when we go to buy the trucks, even though the money's been in the budget, we still have to vote to spend the money for the trucks.
We put rebound aside too, and that's over $100,000 in the contract, and that's what they goes to you guys, or something. I was told by the auditor that anything we put in other funds.
Designated account?
Yeah, for a specific thing, like we had the landfill closure.
Yep.
We put $1 million in there and we spent it, and I don't think we.
Okay. I just want to make sure, and if that's the case, then the fire department should be told to go buy the washer and dryer and get it done. Because that was kind of the point. We didn't want to wait till July 1st.
But you want to maybe you want to make a record in the minutes that you're aware of it.
I don't recall, that was the, correct,
They were here on the 22nd.
they were here on the 15th.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Do we need to vote for them?
Yeah. I'm not seeing anything reflected in the minutes from the 15th when they were here.
Your wife is.
Can that be on today's minutes?
That we talked,
Oh my gosh, I just got rid of it from,
I thought it was, I mean, the 15th is the week that they were all here. It was done as part of their regular budget presentation. And I guess that was my concern is we're looking at, I think everybody was in agreement that we needed to get this done, but I don't see it anywhere in the minutes, which we've already approved. Shame on me for not, you know, it is referenced here that we're waiting for additional information on the Knox boxes, which we've received, and we can vote on that.
I wrote that it was not to exceed 24,000. It would be a 60-day lead time for the equipment, and it includes electrical and plumbing connections.
Yeah, but it's not here.
Yeah.
So I guess that was my concern is, and then making sure we communicate that to the fire department that, okay, go for it.
Well, can it be a topic for tonight?
I suppose we can,
I mean, we're discussing it.
well, we discussed it 3 weeks ago. Can we amend minutes that were already approved?
I don't see
Do
why
it
not.
now. Do it now.
Amend these minutes or just,
Do a new one.
okay.
Put it under other business?
Yeah.
Where we are now?
No, we
Just
don't,
the fact that it was discussed.
we don't have other business on the agenda.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, is it? Okay. So, all right, under other business, we've discussed the washing machines for the fire department, washer and dryer for the fire department. The estimate is $24,000 to purchase them and up to $24,000 to purchase and install them,
Right.
including the plumbing
And electrical.
and electrical that's necessary.
Yep.
This is to wash their turnout gear and keep it safe. And that money will come out of the fire equipment fund. And we understand that if we get to the time when we're purchasing a truck, that we may have to add some money to that account to do so. Right?
Or we can just add a couple of it.
If we need to, I mean, you know, we can take into account trade-in value of the trucks that we're getting rid of and all that, and what the price of the truck will be, and I think it's 2025 or 2026 that we'll actually be purchasing the truck. So we don't need a motion, we're just entering that in the minutes, that that was something that the Board of Finance agreed and wants the fire department to
And we continue to
move
discuss it.
quickly on.
Yep. And Michelle has it all.
Great.
Cool.
We'll contact them tomorrow and Thursday.
Any other items under other?
I'll make a motion that we.
Motion to adjourn, do I hear a second? Second, oh, you guys, don't race. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much, see you next week.
Yep.
Time-wise, we're,
Yeah. I'll get back. Everybody witness this goes back to Michelle's hands for the suspense, the,
Yes.
it did. Dave should be the one. Chairman of the Board of Finance, he needs to sign it. Lyle on the call.